Good afternoon. Welcome to TNC Radio.live. This is the Truckers Network Radio Show. And now here's your host, Shelley Johnson.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Yes, this is the Truckers Network Radio Show on TNC Radio.live, where we offer the news, information, traffic, weather, sports, and entertainment our commercial drivers want and need. Getting paid on time and managing fees in today's world is even more important to commercial trucking and owner-operators. There's so many variables when dealing with supply chain issues, especially today. Owner-operators and drivers we've talked to have many pain points that need to be discussed, especially to weather the storm of the uncertain driving economy, given rising fuel costs and other fees. We wanted to explore this further, so we invited Paul Citarella, the Executive Vice President of RoadSync, a leading digital financial platform for supply chain management, to be on the show. They help brokers and carriers. Welcome, Paul. Thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Shelley, thanks for having me today. I'm really looking forward to the conversation with you today.
I am too. I thought before we begin talking about some of the pain points and challenges our drivers and owner-operators and trucking companies are experiencing, you could tell us a little bit more about RoadSync and what you do.
Yeah, no, I'd be glad to. So, RoadSync is a, technology company founded in 2015, and we're really focusing on the payments across the logistics channel or across the supply chain. And, really what we do is we look for opportunities where there are, major pain points or major complexities, in the payments that are probably causing, drivers and your listeners lots of challenges, and really try to come up with, better solutions to, smooth that process and streamline the process, to make it easier. And then, a lot of that is the digitizing a lot of the, more antiquated payments that still are prevalent within the, transportation and trucking industry. And so that's what we do as a company. We're located here in where I'm in today in Atlanta, Georgia. And, we're about 100 people strong here in our company, headquartered in downtown Atlanta.
Excellent. I see you have one product called RoadSync Advanced. Maybe if you want to outline some of the products you have and what they do for everyone.
Yeah, Shelley, basically we have three core products. To us, what's in the middle is the driver. So we have products for, warehouses where drivers are obviously making, a lot of payments for whether lumber fees or accessorial fees. We have that same product can also work in repair and tow shops. So when, drivers need to pay for a breakdown or a radiator hose that needs to be replaced, we have a facility in which, we can handle those payments. And, that's kind of what we call the product checkout. So that's one product really where drivers go to. Then the next product that we have, the one you mentioned, Shelley, is called RoadSync Advance. And RoadSync Advance is really for carriers, so they can pre-authorize the driver to make payments when they need to. So they don't have to, go get a, I'm sure you're very familiar with fleet checks, whether it's the com checks or the EFS checks. Those are pretty, antiquated, paper-based products. And we've automated those and tried to streamline it. But what we see happening quite often is, drivers are pulling in at 2 a.m. into a warehouse, and they have to call somebody back at home office to authorize the payment.
Sure.
Well, the person you're calling, Shelley, isn't always happy, to get woken up at 2 a.m. So basically, the advanced product allows the company to pre-authorize all those payments. So when the driver needs to make that, they already have the green light to make the payment. So that's, the product that our carriers use. And then the last product that we have is for the driver, and it's a driver app. And we don't expect, we know drivers are like inundated with apps. So we really position this for people that go into a lot of our warehouse locations that, are heavy volume users. And we provide them with a good, driver app so they can manage their payments and their receipts and their invoices very effectively. Sure. So it's really those three things that tie together that, create the RoadSync, product offering.
Now that driver app's called RoadSync Driver, am I correct?
That's correct. You've done your homework today, Shelley.
Yes, I have. I like to do my research.
Thank you for doing that.
I know that there are a lot of different things that are impacting the industry, and there are a lot of pain points that drivers and owner-operators and trucking companies have. We have our driver partner, Tom Kirk, with us today to weigh in. Paul, I guess we could get started maybe talking about what are some of the biggest pain points that you hear about right now.
Yeah. To me, the thing, Shelley, and it's really been a strategy of our company is to be 100% open so we can allow a driver to use any payment vehicle that they have to make a payment. We don't want to make it difficult and create a closed loop system, where you can only use our, types of products. So our approach is to be wide open, and we support every type of payment process. So as I mentioned a little earlier, that fleet checks. Fleet checks are a very, very common way to transact across the trucking industry. What we've done is we've worked very hard with the two major players in there, EFS and Comdata, and basically we've automated that process. And so we actually take the paper out of the process, and now you can pay using that same instrument, but we make it all electronically. So, that's one example. Other things that we're seeing, some people want to pay with credit card, so we can support credit card. And one of the newest things that we just really introduced is the ability for drivers to use their fuel cards and pay, for different types of fees with their fuel card. And to us, the reason that's so important is, I would say 99.9% of all drivers have a fuel card from one of the major, providers out there, and we can use that card as a way to facilitate payment. So what we try to do is use that open approach to make sure it's easier for drivers so they don't, so they can pay anybody, anytime, anywhere, and make it simple versus the, a closed loop system where you have to have, you can only pay with a com check, paper check, and that's the only way you can make a payment. And that can be difficult at times.
Oh, man. And when you're traveling across the country, time is money. And if you can do your transactions, I would think that creates a lot of downtime and all kinds of nightmares. And
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the other things, I'll go back to the fleet checks that exist. The old way, the paper-based way of, people using it still exists. However, it does take time because you have to go and get that check pre-authorized.
Yep.
And that takes time. And then you have to give that check to the, to the vendor, and they're going to validate that. And so sometimes it can be 15 to 20 minutes that you're sitting at the loading dock after you've been, your truck's been completely unloaded, waiting to make the payment. What we do is we try to turn that time into seconds So, because we've electronified the whole process, and that's, one of the key things is how do we make sure that the driver can get out of there, and obviously the warehouse wants you to get out of that lane so they can give it to the next guy to unload. So again, it's really what we're trying to do is take the inefficiencies out of the process to simplify it.
Oh, and that reduces so much frustration, which is super for drivers because they get enough of it just driving around. We want to do more of a deep dive, covering some more of the topics here, but we do have to go to break. You're listening to the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. I'm speaking with Paul Citarella. He's the Executive Vice President of RoadSync. Stay tuned for some more great information coming up. Eating right and eating healthy are two of the toughest challenges truckers face. Sometimes the only way to eat right is to bring food along for the ride. As a professional truck driver, you know that space is limited in your truck cab. Living on the road with limited storage space means you have to get creative on how you store your personal belongings. Drivers will spend weeks away from home, so their semi-truck becomes their home away from home. Truck drivers are pros at making the road feel like home, and stocking up on food is one of the ways they make it feel more like home. With a number of unhealthy food options on the road, drivers need to pack healthier foods and snacks. Food storage is essential to keep your truck clean and organized. It also helps you easily see what foods you have with you on the road. Keep listening to learn some storage ideas for long-haul truck drivers. An electric cooler. An electric cooler is a great way to store perishable items in your truck. They're lightweight and large enough to store and cool down several drinks and snacks. They're also a great alternative to mini fridges. Canned foods. Canned foods are great for truckers because they require little or no preparation. They're also extremely cheap. You may want to consider buying a food warmer if you prefer a hot meal. When storing cans in your truck, we suggest putting them into a container and placing them under the lower bunk. This limits the cans rolling around in your truck while you're driving. Storage containers. Storage containers will be a trucker's best friend when you're on the road. Drawers and storage containers are great for storing clothes, toiletries, and food. 3-drawer storage containers make it easy to organize and store your favorite foods or drinks. Baskets. Baskets allow you to find the food you need quickly and easily. We recommend using clear baskets so you can easily see what's in the baskets. You'll need to secure the baskets so they don't move around while you're driving. Buy some bungee cords to keep your baskets secure in the bunk or cabinets. If you want more information on proper storage and food storage ideas, check out the Truckers Network blog, 5 helpful organization tips for truck drivers.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example, stiction. Found throughout the oil system, stiction is the sticky friction that negatively impacts your engine's ability to function at an optimal level. The molecular structure of oil is a hydrocarbon. The engine's extreme heat, tight tolerances, and high pressure cause the oil to break down and release hydrogen, leaving behind varnish, a carbon-based deposit. The varnish clings to the engine's moving parts, creating drag on the turbocharger, oil pump, and pistons. Symptoms of stiction include a rough idle and a loss of fuel economy and performance. Hot Shot Secret Stiction Eliminator delivers a 98% clean rating in third-party scrub tests. Its synthetic cleaner plus nano lubricant contains no harmful solvents and is formulated to be left in the engine to safely dissolve stiction for thousands of miles. It works as you drive.
Stiction Eliminator is available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Welcome back to the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly and Tom Kirk. We're talking with Paul Citarella. He is the Executive Vice President of RoadSync, and we're discussing the challenges and pain points drivers, owner-operators, and trucking companies are experiencing today and how RoadSync can help them. Mr. Kirk, I know you have quite a few questions, so I thought I'd throw it to you.
Well, let's just start off with one here, Paul, is now RoadSync are you your own fuel card type of a service, or do you work with existing fuel card services out there? Because, there's already a bunch of them that you've mentioned, like T-Check, EFS, ComData, et cetera. How does that work if a driver's going, oh, hey, mate, this might be a great way to pay for my fuel as well as pay for this bill and pay for this bill? Do you do that, or do you work more with existing companies?
No, Tom, we work mostly with existing companies. We've looked at the, fuel card market and realized that that's a pretty mature market that's pretty much dominated by two players, and they have a pretty efficient system the way it works. What we're really looking for as a company is, what are other payment pain points across the supply chain that really are looking for some automation. And as I mentioned in that earlier segment, when, we were talking about, automating the paper check, the paper com check or EFS check, process. That's where we know we add a lot of value to it. So that's where we're focusing. We think the fuel card, is a pretty mature market and working fairly efficiently. So hopefully that answers your question.
I mean, it does, but because I know, and one of the reasons why I wanted to ask that question is having a bunch of friends who are owner operators, particularly, of small fleets or single truck things. They're always looking for new and better and innovative ways to pay. And I had a feeling, you weren't trying to reinvent the wheel, but I wanted to make sure on behalf of those drivers, exactly where you're fitting to that. And really, you're just taking existing things out there and tweaking it to make it more efficient for everyone involved.
Yeah, no, and that is our premise. So how do we take something, and I talked a little bit about being open, because we know that those cards are available, are in use today, and how can we just let those even, owner operators or small fleet operators use the fuel cards they have to make other types of payments. And we've really enabled that, so those types of payments could be accepted at, warehouses or even at a lot of the different repair and tow locations across the country that use the RoadSync product. They can, handle those types of payments. So we just tried to make those products better and accessible to a much wider network, Tom.
And actually, you read my mind as far as going next. I remember we were talking at a little bit at Mid-America when a driver had walked up to you and says, "Hey, I just use you guys, I think it was yesterday, before to pay for a repair or a tow bill." So other than, let's say, the warehousing or a tow bill, are there any other areas that you're either currently servicing or think you may be getting into to make some of these payment things a little more simple for drivers?
Yeah, we're focusing on a couple areas. I think those are the biggest one, and I think there's the most number of the highest volume of those. The other thing is what we're trying to do is how do we pre-authorize things for drivers so when they do go into a location, and I think that's an important part. But one thing, Tom, that I didn't mention in the earlier segment is one of the challenges is how do I keep and retain receipts, right?
Yes.
Because
yes.
So when I go to a warehouse and I get the $200 unloading fee, and if I need to get that back to a broker, or if I need to get that back to a shipper, or even my home office if I work for a company. That's one of the other things that we're focusing on. Our solution is how do we make sure we have that receipt and it's not a piece of paper that's folded up and put in your dashboard or put on your seat next to you, and there's an opportunity to lose it. So we, with our driver app, Tom, you can actually get the receipts right into there, into your driver app, and I could, retain that for whatever period I need to retain that, or I can very quickly, email or send that off to whomever at the broker that I'm dealing with or the shipper. So, our solution is really trying to, solve those pain points that we know exists in getting that paperwork back, because brokers sometimes won't pay you for it if you don't get it to them in a timely fashion.
Oh, definitely. And even some companies, major carriers, if you don't get your receipts to them within, whatever time period they establish, and just for the sake of conversation, we're going to say 7 days, you might be SOL on some of those receipts. And I've had the experience before, I'm sure almost every other driver has who's done this for any length of time, where you sent a receipt in. I know, well, we can't find this receipt. And it's like, I send it to you. And of course, when you start looking at the transflow numbers or whatever it is, something's wrong, or, you look at your FedEx tracking and it says it arrived, but they're saying they can't find page X or whatever it is. Now is your only copy. And some of these lumpers or customers are good at looking up receipts and getting them to you in a timely manner. And some of them pretty much show you lose your receipt, you're SOL. We are not going to look up receipts for you. So the one question I have, you mentioned the driver portal through the app. Let's say I'm somebody who already has 50 apps on my phone. I don't want to download another app. Is there a web-based portal I can use if maybe I'd rather do that instead?
Yes. So, there's actually probably a couple of ways. So we try to, solve, the issue a couple of ways. They can always call us at RoadSync, or, come to our website, and you'll see, at the top right-hand corner, we have an opportunity for them to click on it and ask for a receipt. And so we can get them a receipt that way. Clearly, they can go back to the warehouse or the repair and tow company or wherever they, had the transaction and ask for the receipt. And to us, that is, a big part of, closing the loop. And we do get a lot of calls from, drivers every day that are, looking for a lost receipt. And, with a lot of examples, hey, I know you sent it to me, but I can't find it. So, we're more than happy to provide that receipt for them.
And I assume, obviously, you're going to email a copy too when the transaction's completed, correct?
Yes.
And then I do have another quick question I want to think of. You said that you could go ahead and look up a receipt. So what information would I need for you to look up the receipt? Is there like a confirmation number? Would it be based on what would you need in order to be able to find a receipt?
So, we'll need, we'll definitely probably, need the date that you were there and the location and the city, that you're in. And I think, we can, use that to, find it, what your name, carrier name was. So you give us a couple pieces of data and, we should be able to find them. If you ask, hey, I had a receipt and I was at a warehouse a month ago and I don't remember who it was, but it was in Los Angeles, that might be a little hard for us. But, I think the more we can narrow it down, we should be able to get, we can get those receipts pretty easily.
And that's great, because the biggest fear I was hearing was saying, oh, well, you're going to have a tracking or a confirmation number, because all too many businesses nowadays, if you don't have the almighty tracking or confirmation number, good luck.
Yes. Yeah. No. So, we look at it, location would be the most, like the warehouse or the shop that you worked at would be the most important thing to get that, documentation.
Excellent.
It's terrific what you're doing here, Paul. Convenience. I think that's one of the big things. And in saving the frustration for drivers and the paper chase. This is excellent.
And Shelley, one thing that Tom asked, and he made the point is, people have 50 apps on their phone. They don't always want another app, and we totally espouse. We support that notion. We're not forcing apps on people, if they don't need it. We do have an app, and we think it solves business issues for frequent drivers that come into our checkout locations. but we know that there's still a big number of people that just come in once. And so basically how we interact with them is just through text. We will send them a link, when their truck has been unloaded, and hey, listen, here's your link to pay for the unloading fee at the warehouse that you're in. And it is a contactless payment process if necessary. And we send them the link, and then once they click on the link, they can complete the transaction right there, pay for it, and then drive away, very simply. And we have, we're probably interacting with about 85,000 drivers a month. And a big portion of those are just through the, through the tech side, because they're just going into locations very occasionally that we have.
Excellent. Well, we want to learn more. We do have to go to break here. You're listening to the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly and Tom Kirk. We're talking with Paul Citarella, the Executive Vice President of RoadSync. Stay tuned for more coming up.
This blog on tncradio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Common mental health issues truck drivers face. Every day the roads are full of heavy-duty trucks. Trucks are responsible for nearly 80% of America's freight. Being a truck driver is not an easy job, and it's not for everyone. Trucking can be hard on an individual, both physically and mentally. Suffering from mental health can put truck drivers in a dangerous situation. To safely operate a heavy-duty vehicle, drivers need to be physically and mentally healthy. Here are 4 common mental health issues that truck drivers face. Why mental health issues are common in truck drivers. Truck driving is a demanding job and can be very stressful at times. A stressful work environment leads to anxiety and depression. In addition to a stressful work environment, truck drivers spend a lot of time alone in their truck. Constantly being alone can affect one's mental health. Although many truck drivers suffer from mental health issues, some are afraid to get help because they fear losing their job. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, that's FMCSA, requires drivers to be in good health before receiving or renewing a commercial driver's license. The trucking industry is predominantly male. A study by RAHM states that men are less likely to get treatment for their mental health than women. It's important for drivers to take care of their mental health as much as their physical health. Common mental health issues in truck drivers. Depression. Depression is an illness that affects you mentally, physically, and emotionally. It's very common in the trucking industry. Being alone and away from friends and family contributes to depression. It's important to know the difference between feeling down and having depression. If you feel that you're experiencing depression, seek out help. Depression is serious and can affect your ability to operate your truck. Anxiety. Because of how stressful trucking can be, anxiety is very common for drivers. This is especially true for new drivers. Many experienced drivers have reported having anxiety and panic attacks while on the road. It's important to know the difference between new driver anxiety and generalized anxiety. If you're often experiencing anxiety while working, take the necessary steps to get help. Chronic sleep disturbances. A good night's rest is crucial to truck drivers. Not having enough sleep can make it dangerous to operate a heavy-duty vehicle. Because of a truck driver's living and work situation, good sleep can be difficult. A NCBI study reports that 20 to 28.6% of truck drivers have an unspecified sleep disorder, and 27.5% of truck drivers are diagnosed with insomnia. Sleep is extremely important for your mental and physical health. If you're experiencing problems sleeping while trucking, consider seeking professional help. Loneliness. Truck drivers spend many days and weeks isolated in their truck. According to Business Insider, nearly a third of drivers say being alone is a significant issue affecting their mental health. This blog on tncradio.live has been brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
This is Alec Debogorski, and you are listening to tncradio.live.
Welcome back to the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly and Tom Kirk, and we're talking with Paul Citarella. He is the Executive Vice President of RoadSync. We're discussing some of the challenges and various other pain points that drivers, owner-operators, and trucking companies experience while they're out on the road today. Mr. Kirk, I know you had quite a few questions in our last segment, and you've probably been hearing a lot of comments from drivers as you travel around. What are some of the other concerns you're hearing about?
Well, I think one of the concerns we're hearing about, we've actually been addressing it a little bit on my show, Keep On Talking, here over the last couple of weeks, is truck parking and the payment of it. Some drivers may primarily do cash or may need their company to pay things. What are some of the things that RoadSync covers other than, let's say, the warehousing or the tow and repair bills? Do they allow the possibility for drivers or their companies to pay for truck parking or truck washes, or how does that whole ecosystem work above and beyond the big two, shall we say?
Yeah, no. I think it's a great question, and I think there are a lot of other payments, out there, and whether it's scales or whether it's truck wash or even parking, that those are opportunities that we see, on the horizon. We do have some scale. Locations that we work with. We have a number of truck washes, that we work with. And then, I think, as you said, parking, especially with, hours of service and kind of all those mandates, we see a peak in demand for parking. So, that is something that, we work with a couple of parking locations, and our plan is to continue to, look at more places where they, will kind of have the RoadSync checkout product. So this way drivers can pay through that open approach that I mentioned earlier, Tom.
Something that you were talking about here just a minute ago, Paul, for somebody who might not still be 100% certain of how RoadSync works or what it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, because the way you were describing something that's just clicked in my brain. This is in some ways the trucking version of PayPal. So you can have a fuel card or some type of a company electronic payment system linked to your RoadSync, or your own personal credit card. So instead of and maybe this is a better way to phrase it. So instead of having to use your credit card at some of these businesses, particularly if you have to give somebody your credit card number at a shipper or receiver, you can go to a secure checkout system, put in that information, or store it in the app. So when you do need to pay using the RoadSync, they don't ever see your credit card number, kind of like that PayPal concept. Is that an oversimplification, or would you say that's maybe fairly accurate?
No, that's very accurate. We call it remote checkout, Tom. And basically, so, I'll give you, for whatever scenario, whether it's, kind of the repair or tow warehouse or, truck wash, that once the job is complete, as I mentioned earlier, we'll send you a text, or it will show up in your app, and then you make the payment. You could be making the payment sitting in your cab where no one else sees that information. So you can type in your credit card number right there, or have it stored if that's what you want to do, to facilitate that payment. And no one in the office has your credit card, and clearly all that is encrypted when it pushes to our application, so it's secure and retained in a safe manner in our system once it gets there, so that the repairman or the person at the truck wash never sees your credit card number, which we all want to keep very secretive, so no one else steals that number.
Right. And I think you mentioned this, but I want to emphasize that there, not only will the repairman or whichever vendor you're dealing with never see your credit card number, once it's going to get transmitted securely to your office, and even no one on your side is going to be able to see that whole number, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. It's, totally encrypted, and, we truncate it so we don't see all the numbers. So it's, kind of safe from that perspective.
And that's good news, because, I've had out here on the road, at making a purchase at a truck stop one day. My credit card was stolen, cloned, whatever term you want to use. And do you know how much of a pain in the neck it is to be out on the road, particularly if it's like an ATM debit card or whatever it is, to get a hold of your bank, be in the middle of a trip, have to have everything shut off and go, how am I going to pay for things? Have to find a branch to try to get a semi-truck into to get a new card. So having something like this that can make certain payments would make life easier. Do you ever see a day where if somebody has a truck stop where maybe they're using your services for their shop or their truck wash, where drivers could theoretically use the RoadSync app if it was linked up to one of their personal accounts to make private purchases? So like you go inside and you want to buy some motor oil or whatever it is, as long as that merchant was working with you. Do you see a future in that, or is that maybe something that is maybe a long term down the road?
There might be more on the long term down the road. I think, because, when you look at the truck stops and, everything that they have inside is kind of linked, to the fuel thing. So that's probably a little bit longer term, for us. And again, to us, we're trying to identify problems in the payment system that are, slow people, processes that are inefficient. And we think those are pretty efficient, when going in and buying, a hot dog or whatever inside so that's not a focus for us.
And I would agree they're fairly efficient. I was actually just thinking more from the security standpoint of there's another layer between your personal card and that. And I know other people are using various other services out there now, whether it's Apple Pay, and I'm not an Apple person, so I have no clue how that works. But that's why I was wondering if you ever saw a future in that, or like you said, if there is enough existing services out there that you're kind of handling of them and working on more of the unique ones.
Yeah, we're working on more of the unique ones because we think those are pretty crowded markets, for us to, get our, foot in the door. So, it's not on the short-term focus right now.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know we've talked about a few of the different things that RoadSync works with. Is there any other areas, that you can think of other than maybe the scales, some of the truck washes, and the other obvious ones we've talked about that a driver could use RoadSync at?
Yeah, and it's some of the things we're looking at, that I think those are the, like what you went through are the major cases in which a driver needs to make payments for, but what we're, looking at, in the future, are there challenges, for example, at the ports, right? And there's, probably antiquated processes there, and so we think there's some opportunities for us to, work there. We also see some challenges, and it's probably less or maybe for the owner operators, how can we make it more efficient for brokers to pay all their different, owner operators and, truckers that they use more efficiently. So, we're looking at ways, to really accelerate the payment. So, hopefully we can talk to you about some of those things in more detail in the next couple of months, because we're pretty excited about that as well, because we think there's problems in, getting those truckers paid, whether it's from the broker or even from the shipper. So if we can facilitate that in a more streamlined fashion, we think there's some exciting opportunity there.
And the answer is, to answer your question, is yes. One of the major pain points from talking to a lot of owner operators is, okay, you go and run the load, then you have to go ahead and submit the paperwork. And whether it's the broker or the shipper, whoever it is, some of those run on net 30, net 60. I've even heard as high as net 120 or even 180 for payment.
Yep.
And a lot of drivers are saying, why isn't there an escrow system where they have to go and pay a portion, if not the whole load, into some type of an escrow account. They present proof of completion, and then either that day or within, let's say, 3 to 4 business days, that money is released. But ideally, it would be within a matter of hours.
Yeah. And so that, for some of the larger brokers, they have a bunch of compliant things. So they have to, set somebody up. And especially if it's a new, carrier that they're using, they have to set them up in their system, and it takes time. And, some of the things that we're thinking, because we do lots of distributions to, companies all day long.
I hate to interrupt, but we have to go to break here. Maybe we could pick up on that topic when we come back. You're listening to the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. Stay tuned for more coming up.
This blog is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. 4 simple ways to improve your physical health as a truck driver. Being a truck driver is a rewarding career. However, it's not very rewarding for your physical health. A truck driver's lifestyle makes it difficult for them to be healthy. Because of their lifestyle, truckers are more likely to develop serious health issues like obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, and more. Although a truck driver's lifestyle doesn't promote healthy living, it doesn't mean that a truck driver cannot be healthy while on the road. There are several ways you can improve your health on the road. Here are 4 things you can start doing today to improve your physical health on the road as a truck driver. Avoid harmful foods. Avoiding unhealthy foods is way harder than it sounds. As a truck driver, your healthy food choices are extremely limited. While it may seem impossible to completely cut out unhealthy foods from your diet, it might be a good idea to cut back. You can start cutting back on unhealthy foods by packing meals in your truck. That way, the next time you get hungry on the road, you can eat a much healthier meal instead of eating greasy, high-calorie fast food. Another way you can start cutting back on unhealthy foods is to make a list of unhealthy items you eat every day and start slowly replacing them with a healthier option. For example, if you drink soda 3 times a day, cut back to 2, then to 1, and then none. Stock up on healthy foods. To live a healthier lifestyle, you have to cut back on heavily processed foods. Unfortunately, a truck driver's diet heavily consists of processed foods. Stocking up on healthy groceries is one of the best ways you can improve your physical health. When grocery shopping before your trip, avoid frozen pre-made meals, sodas, fried foods, chips. Instead, look for whole grain, fruits, veggies, and healthy fats. Start exercising. Exercise is essential to a driver's overall physical and mental health. Truck drivers have to get creative to stay fit while on the road. Finding the time to exercise can be a challenge for truck drivers. Drivers spend up to 11 hours a day on the road. After working all day, exercising may seem like the last thing you want to do, but you'll thank yourself later. Exercising a few times a week will not only improve your physical health, but also mental health. Get a good night's rest. The right amount of sleep is crucial for a truck driver. Lack of sleep can make driving dangerous. A study shows that long-haul truck drivers obtain less sleep than the required amount of alertness on the job. Truckers need a good night's sleep to be fully alert and ready to take on the road the next morning. Truck drivers travel several hundred miles each day. To reach their destination on time, they'll have to prioritize sleep so they can be alert and ready to take on the day. Not only is sleep an important factor for job performance, but it's also important for lowering stress levels and improving your immune system. Now, here are some ways to promote better sleep. Turn off electronics an hour before bed. Invest in a good mattress and pillow. Put up curtains in your truck cab. Avoid caffeine before bed. And exercise. This blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. I'm Ron Samuels. We put it in reverse gear so you can enjoy the history of popular music and hear the soundtrack of life Wednesdays at 8 Eastern and 7 Central, right after the train station on TNCRadio.live.
Welcome back to the Truckers Network Radio Show on TNCRadio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly and Tom Kirk, and we're talking with Paul Citarella. He's the Executive Vice President of RoadSync. We're talking about challenges and pain points and what RoadSync does to help out. Paul, I had to interrupt you at our last segment. I apologize for that. Did you want to jump back to what you were saying? I believe we were covering drivers getting paid in a timely manner and that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, Tom and I were talking about, how can brokers more efficiently pay, carriers, owner operators for the loads. And, it's one of the things that we see as a pain point. And I think Tom reiterated that, from his experience being on the road. And that's opportunities that we like, Shelley, because we know that they're pain points, and, we'll put the IQ or put the brain on it and figure out what we can do to solve that problem and come up with a solution, that provides value to the brokers out there, and then obviously provides value for, the drivers, so they can get, the drivers and the carriers, so they can get paid in an efficient manner. So, that's a great example of, new opportunities that we're looking at as an organization.
That's wonderful. Mr. Kirk, did you have any other topics that you've heard talked about?
Well, one thing I want to kind of finish, even though, Paul, I know this is not something you guys are ready to release today, something that we've been talking about a little air, and you made me think of just now when you're talking about is the other pain point is kind of a two-way street, and I think this is going forward something that would be a perfect fit for RoadSync. Is you were saying, okay, there's a bunch of different brokers out there. If you're a small company, every company has their due diligence process that you have to go through in order to get paid, whether it's quickly or on whatever schedule. And, you were saying, hey, if they participated with RoadSync, the ideal would be if you got approved with company A, well, now all these to be automatically or very quickly approved for, if not automatically. But I also was looking at from another direction is there are certain brokers who have a reputation of being a slow pay, or in rare cases never pays for whatever set of circumstances. And I could see this as a two-way street where you're saying, hey, we're going to work with the carriers that we know meet these standards, but likewise, we know our brokers are going to meet these standards. So I think it's this double vetting system that could solve a lot of problems, and maybe, as much as I hate saying this, rebuild some of the trust that drivers have lost with different brokers and shippers.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great, kind of, secondary benefit to it is that, that there would be some, checks and balances. And, we've seen this, where, in other industries where crowdsourcing is, giving you views on things. And I think that is, a great benefit is that both ways can look at it, because, we want this, this system to be efficient and allow people, allow the brokers to pay the, drivers efficiently. And then, to your point, you would know that if they were using that RoadSync application, that we're paying, fairly quickly in that process. So that could be a secondary benefit to that.
Yeah, and that I think is something like I said, it was just something that dawned on me that, oh, wait a second, this is a way of making, and if you use this, you can give me credit for a free cup of coffee the next time we meet or something. The RoadSync seal of approval.
Yeah.
Or RoadSync certified, something like that, because that way, everybody knows, hey, everybody is meeting the same basic standards and moving forwards. And drivers hate paying fees. I mean, face it, we would prefer not to do some of this stuff, but at least you're making it simpler. And particularly if it's a fee that somebody else should be paying, whether it's a company or a broker, you're taking some, the drivers having to get cash advances or other things out where it's coming at least short term out of their wallet, where, that middleman of the driver is being bypassed, and they're not having to handle all that extra money because, let's just face it, every now and then money gets stolen, money gets lost. And I think this is a way that simplifies some of that and makes it a little bit more, I think, secure for the drivers is a good way to put it.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think, that's, it's an important, we are dependent upon all the players in the network, and everybody has to work, well together. But like, as you said, it, could provide a seal of approval going forward.
Shelley, I don't think you're going to believe this, but believe it or not, I think Paul has answered almost every question that I could think of to throw at him, including the curveballs.
That's really good. Well, it shows he's done his homework and he knows the industry, and that's so important for everybody. That makes it a reliable, terrific product. What kind of things, Paul, are you hearing from customers? Do they have any suggestions? I assume you have a suggestion box and stuff.
Yeah, no, Shelley, great question. We have a, driver advisory board that we interact with on, a regular basis. We survey drivers quite often because that's where the answers are going to come from. And I think, any technology company like RoadSync, really needs to keep their ear to the ground to figure out what the pain points are. And so, so when we look at what we do, we have different systems different approaches for different types of, drivers. So, a small owner operator who doesn't want to download an app, we have a way to allow them to easily make payments when they come into any RoadSync facility. For drivers that are frequently using us, we think we have something better than just the text-based solution, and they can, use that. And then, almost on the other side of the spectrum, like a top 10 carrier, we provide solutions, for them. And, depending upon how they work, we can get the, receipts and vital information back to them. So, I think, we're listening to a lot of different constituents. We're listening to, drivers. We're listening to our, parking, truck wash, scale, repair and tow, and warehouse customers. And then we're listening to our carriers, going forward. And, we've been doing this, not, terribly long, but since 2015, and been seeing some nice, growth in our company. And, that's just because we've been successful and been supporting each one of those constituents, very well, and, providing them with the type of level of support that they would expect.
That's excellent.
Hey, Shelley, I did think of one more super quick question. Hey, Paul, you mentioned you work with a lot of different companies. If a driver wanted to see if a vendor they're going to deal with, whether it's a tow company, shipper, receiver that they're going to, is there a way they can look up in advance if they participate with RoadSync?
Yeah, we do have a website, bigrig411.com, which is a place where drivers can go and look for repair and tow locations, across the country that accept RoadSync and provide them service. So whether it's you're broken down with a flat tire on the side of Route 66 somewhere, you can just search there and look for the, locations. So that's the, the one main place that we have today. And again, it's bigrig411.com, and you can get that information there.
That's a great website name. I like that.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Easy to remember for sure. Where can people get a hold of your company?
Yeah, I think if you go to RoadSync.com, and let me spell RoadSync because it's RoadSync.com. And then, you can, see what we have as, a company. You can, you can download our driver app there. You'll see that. There's a section for drivers. And then for the few of you drivers that need to get receipts, you look in the upper right-hand corner of our website and be able to see where you can get a receipt from us, going forward.
Excellent. I love what you're doing, and you're adapting quickly to all of the changing demands. You're looking at the big picture. That's so important because the whole idea is to keep everything moving and reduce the frustration and save money for everybody, along with, well, when they save money and they have convenience, they make more money. So everybody's happy.
Yeah, save money and save time. I think that's the most, that's so important, Shelley. So, I think you summarized it very well.
Well, thank you. This has been wonderful, Paul. We've been talking with Paul Citarella. He's the Executive Vice President of RoadSync, and their company helps operators, owner-operators, trucking companies, and all types of people in transportation with the challenges, and so they can make more money, which is terrific. You've been listening to the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live. Thank you for listening to another great interview on tncradio.live and the Truckers Network radio show. All of the material you hear on tncradio.live, on our website, our broadcasts, or our podcasts are copyrighted. There can be no distribution without the express consent of tncradio.live and its partners. For inquiries, write us at info@tncradio.live. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast of the Truckers Network radio show. 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 Network radio show.